All right, good morning. Hi, Jeff. How are you today?
Good morning, Lauren. I'm doing great. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. I thank you so much for joining me. I just wanted to take a few minutes to speak with you and just answer a few questions that I think we get a lot of time about title. So if you wouldn't mind just starting off with just introducing yourself to our viewers and explain how you got into the title business and how long you've been doing it for.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jeff Nowak. I'm the founder and president of Cobalt Settlements. We have physical offices in Arlington, Alexandria, and Herndon, but we do closings anywhere in Virginia or Washington, D.C. I've been in the title business for over 20 years, and it's interesting how I got involved in real estate and title and settlements. And it goes back to law school. And interestingly enough, law school, they don't really teach you anything specific. And unless you have a burning desire to be in corporate law or estate planning or litigation, you really don't develop an expertise until you find your first job. And I actually came out of law school thinking that I wanted to be a litigator because of the competitive nature, kind of brought back the feeling of the competition when I was a young athlete. And I quickly learned that I did not like that world, that it was very adversarial as opposed to competitive. And I wanted to work more in a collaborative environment. And so my second job out of law school was down in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was in the real estate title and settlement business, and immediately really enjoyed it and really liked the collaborative nature of it and have continued in that ever since.
Great. So as we all know, because of COVID, the title business wasn't exempt from having to pivot overnight in terms of how we do business. Can you describe a few changes that your company has made as a result and whether you think those changes will become permanent?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it was a great learning experience for me, and I think everybody in my profession. So when COVID first started, obviously no one knew the extent of the impact, and so we're four people in our office, but it's a fairly large office, and everybody has their own conference room, or not conference room, but they have their own office. And so we could stay apart and respect the social distancing. So we weren't overly concerned at that point, but I felt that it was important to set examples. And so I basically sent my entire staff home, and the only person that was in the office was me. And we have the voice over IP phones, we have cloud networking. And so everybody's working from home just like they were in the office. And I don't think anybody missed a beat. And what I learned from this experience is we can be almost as efficient in a remote location as we are when we're all together. And so that was really an eye-opening experience. And to this day, we still kind of rotate with the staff taking turns working from home just to still minimize the direct contact that we have, but also, my people really enjoy that have to commute a ways. That's more time for themselves, their family, or to be more productive for Cobalt. So those kind of things we're definitely going to continue to do. Now, as far as how we are conducting closings is drastically different. And as you just experienced with the closing we just finished, what we are trying to do, and we're very successful in doing it, is coordinating everything far enough in advance with lenders and buyers and realtors, and getting everything finished a day or two before closing. And then we'll set up a video conference with the buyers and sellers where myself or another attorney in the office will actually do a video conference with them. I'll share my screen with the buyers or the sellers, and I'll simply scroll through all the documents just like I normally would have done a year and a half ago when we're sitting in the conference room in person. And it's super efficient. And then when they come in for the actual signing, we'll have the documents spread out on our 10-foot long conference table, and we'll have drawn their attention to where they need to sign and date with a little highlighter. So the in-person signing has really been minimized to 5-10 minutes because it's done in assembly line style, and people really, really like it. They're getting the personal attention, they're getting their questions answered, and they're having a really efficient closing when they have to meet and sign papers.
Oh, that's great.
And that's, again, something that I think is going to continue on in the long run. And people, like I said, are going to be reaching out for that.
Great. You know, oftentimes in real estate, title is the last thing buyers think about. There's so much more focus on the home inspection, the appraisal, and financing. Can you describe why buyers should care about the title of their property?
Because title means ownership. And if you don't care about title, that means you don't care that you own something that you spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on. It's so important. And as you said, it's kind of an oversight. People don't really understand it. They hear so much about it, and but the looking and making offers and then talking about financing is so much more sexy than talking about title and title issues. And quite honestly, you know, people don't want to. We're doing the best at our job when you don't hear from us. It's really, no news is good news. You want us to be as silent as possible, because if I call you other than checking in or asking for some information that we need to do our job, that means that we found a problem. And how are we going to deal with that problem? So almost by design, we should be very silent. And the way I look at it is, we're problem solvers and we're anxiety relievers. So I don't want to, if I find a problem, I'm going to do everything that I can do to fix it before I bring it to people's attention, because people are anxious about, you know, the whole transaction, the process, whether their financing is going to come through. You know, they're moving, and it's one of the most stressful events. It's fun as it is, it's a very stressful event. So I don't want to add any more stress. So we try to solve problems before we bring them to your attention. But paying attention to the details, making sure that everything has been done properly. And what a lot of people think about is, oh, I only have to worry about the transaction that I'm dealing with today with my sellers or with my buyers. But what people have to understand is, your property has a history, and everything that your property has ever gone through, basically back to the beginning of time, has to be done correctly. And so that's my job, is to make sure that everything has been done correctly, not just with our transaction, but every single event that's ever touched your new home. And again, it's very, very important.
Great, thank you. What is one frequently asked question you get asked about titling a home that buyers should know?
That's easy, and I deal with it multiple times per day. And it's, why do I need title insurance? You're doing a title search, and so title insurance isn't necessary. If there was anything wrong with the title to my property, you would have found it via the title search. So therefore, title insurance is just a money grab and a scam. And I don't hear the money grab and a scam that often, but I do hear, well, why do I need title insurance if you're doing a title search? And that's a great question. And the answer is, yes, we do a title search, but if you think about what I said earlier, that we have to be worried about every single transaction that has ever touched your property, in essence, back to the beginning of time, our title search and the conclusion that everything seems to be fine and we can go to the closing table is really a conclusion based on nothing more than looking at documents that have been recorded over, the last 100 years or more at the county land records. And so we don't know for an absolute certainty that everything that has happened with your property was done properly, that it was done by the proper people, that was done with the proper people with the proper mental capacity or intent. And there's no guarantee just by doing a title search that someone might not come forward and challenge your ownership of the property. And title insurance is what insulates a buyer or a homeowner from the financial ramifications of that, because the title insurance covers the cost of defending your ownership of that home against these types of claims. And that includes attorney's fees, court costs, and God forbid, if the claim is ultimately found to be valid, it pays to fix that claim, whether it's going to court to get documents corrected and filed with the county, or really is it writing a check to someone whose ownership interest had never conveyed on to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, and ultimately to the current owner. So that's really why that's really the number one question that I get is, why do I even need it? A follow-up question is, will I ever use it? And quite honestly, my answer is probably not. But the situation is, if you need it and don't have it, it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars to perfect your title, to pay off liens, to hire attorneys, that sort of thing, where you can get title insurance that will manage that or pay for that process for a few $1,000s paid one time at closing. So kind of those two questions go hand in hand.
Great, thank you. What is one common misconception that buyers have about title?
Yeah, so to follow up on what I had just mentioned about title insurance is when someone borrows money from a mortgage company or a bank to buy their home, their lender requires that the homeowner purchase what's called a lender's title insurance policy. Mm-hmm. So the lender understands the risk and the imperfections in just doing a title search. And they tell the homeowner, you're not gambling with my money. So if you're going to borrow our money to buy your home, you're going to pay for a lender's title insurance policy that's going to protect the bank. That's a complete and separate policy than the owner's title insurance. And so the biggest misconception that I get from the novice homeowner is, well, if the bank has a title insurance policy or the mortgage company has a title insurance policy, why do I need it? Because if there is a title insurance claim or a claim against the title to my property, the bank's policy has to jump in and fix it to protect the bank, which seems logical, but that's not quite how it works, because the title insurance policies are not triggered and they don't pay to fix problems until there's actually a financial loss or an imminent threat of a financial loss. If I've got my home and there's a title problem, as long as I'm continuing to make my mortgage payment, the bank doesn't have any sort of financial loss. And so their policy is not going to be triggered and they're not going to pay to fix the problem. It's when I go, well, I don't own this house, obviously, because of this title problem. I'm not going to continue to pay my mortgage. Mm-hmm. And so my mortgage company forecloses, takes my home from me, and they turn around and try to sell it at a later date to recoup their losses. And now they can't sell it because of that title defect. And that's when their policy jumps in to protect them. So I get no protection from my bank's or my mortgage company's policy because my harm has already been done by the time their policy ever pays out. So that's the number one misconception that people have about the owner's title insurance, that they're only insuring their equity in the property.
Got it. All right. And lastly, is there any other tidbits or pieces of information you'd like to pass on to our viewers, or things they should know or keep in mind?
Well, it's yes, there's a lot that I could say. So that's a very broad question. Um, I think I've stressed the importance of title insurance and why everyone should have it, both owners and lenders, and obviously the lenders, they're required to have it. The tidbits that I'd like to pass on is when you are in this type of process of buying your home or selling your home, it's really important to look at the qualifications of the people that you're working with. You want to make sure that you're dealing with seasoned, experienced professionals who really focus on your needs. One of the reasons that I started Cobalt Settlements was I really felt like my industry, the title insurance industry, was becoming very commoditized, that it was all about volume, it was all about quantity, and you just had to build a very efficient system, and everybody could fit into this system, and we could rush them through, and the system would take care of things. And I just didn't feel like, with the most important and the most expensive, for most people, asset that they'll ever purchase, that they should have a little more detail paid to their process. And that goes with real estate agents and loan officers. You know, you've been in this business, Lauren, long enough that you've worked with different title companies and different lenders, and the folks that pay close attention, who you can call, who you have financial leverage, for a better term, for a lack of a better term, those are the folks that you want to work with. So when you're paying hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for a home, that's not the time to try to bargain shop and get the absolute cheapest title company, lender, realtor to represent you. So it's the most experienced and the ones that are going to pay the most attention to you.
Thanks, Jeff. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Well, we are all over the place. So our website is www.cobaltsettlements.com. My email address is jeff@cobaltsettlements.com. We're on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. And they can always reach me through you.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thanks so much for your time this morning, Jeff.
I think you've got me on speed dial.
All right. Thanks so much for your
Anytime,
time and
Lauren.
helpful information this morning, Jeff. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you soon at the settlement table.
Anytime. I enjoyed it. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks.